What's up guys, Nate here. I wanted to do a video about how I make my chef knife handles. I think it's an interesting process and it's working really well for me. In full production mode now, I have 3 pairs of handles that I've just finished. And I'm working on more. I have all of these blocks to go through. And what I've done with all of these is run a milling program that puts a whole pattern with countersinks. I just do that in my vise. I won't go through all the CAM process of this. That's a whole nother dealie. But once you get that all worked out, this is kind of the practical part of it. So I have here a block of white micarta. And then I have my fixture plate. This is a pretty common way to do milling operations. Take a plate of aluminum and put clamps on it somehow, or in my case I used these bolts coming through from the bottom, and the heads of them are cut off on one side and sunk in there. They're like a D shape, so they won't spin or anything. So what I do is I take my block of handle material that has been prepared, and I find the holes. Set it on there, get it down pretty flush, or as tight as possible. Throw in my few screws. Alright, so we're getting these tightened up, and I like to get them as tight as I possibly can. This is the same hardware that I use to hold the handles onto the knife. Just did that to make it easier on myself. Probably not the best method of holding this down, but micarta cuts really easily in mill. So there we are, nice and bolted down. I have a 2-flute 3/16 inch solid carbide end mill. This was already zeroed from the last operation on the previous pass, but so what I do is there's a small hole there, and I zero my X and Y on that, and I leave that through all of the bits of handle, or all of the handles I'm doing. I leave the X, Y zero, because it's a bitch to zero it. If I accidentally zero one of those, I get really angry. And then all I have to do is zero Z. So threw in a 3/16 end mill, zero it just on the fixture plate. That's how I set up my operation here, that the bottom is zero. Sometimes you zero off of the part, but for this I'm using thicker stock than the 3D model, so I just zero off the plate and that hole. So the center of that hole right there is my 000, and the bottom of our end mill is already zeroed. So the first program I'm going to run is a roughing program, and I'm using horizontal roughing, which is what the program is called in Rhino. And you can see it's kind of a wonky program, but this one's made to just remove as much material as possible. And I like to go pretty close to where I think the start of the program is going to be, just so it doesn't have to travel very far or get wonky with some things. For this I do prefer to stand here and hold a vacuum, but I've also noticed it's fine if I just let the dust pile up. It doesn't really impede the cutter at all. The dust from this stuff is super light and like chalky almost. So yeah, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a view of how this starts, and I'll come back in the middle. Here's taking really deep passes, about probably 50 thou, maybe even deeper. And this is just to remove big chunks of material that aren't needed. You see, it leaves a really great finish. Alright guys, and here's what we end up with after the roughing program. Takes off a good amount of material, leaves these tabs on. They'll pop off probably during the next operation. Sometimes they break off during the roughing, but you can see these end mills just leave a really nice finish on it still. These I didn't mention these end mills are from Midwest Cutting Tools right here in Waukesha. They're really great. They have awesome carbide, great prices. So now what I'm going to do is switch this 3/16 inch end mill out for a quarter inch ball end mill, and that will do the finishing, and while it'll shape these more, it'll give a nice radial pattern that we're looking for with my design, and bring them closer to spec. You can see little divots around the edge. That's from where it sometimes plunges a little bit too far, but should be fine, and we'll come back. Alright, so we got our quarter inch ball, and it's going to start doing the radial pattern. I believe the program is called Radial Machining. You pick a center point and it'll do radiating lines out from that. Here I have the center point right where the end mill is now, at the top of the two handles, and it'll spread across both of them, kind of like a starburst looking thing. But you can see it's going real short passes at this point, because these are the short little bits of radius, but eventually it'll start doing long cuts all the way across. And here's where that little bit's probably going to break off. So I'm going to go stand elsewhere. Okay, so our finishing pass is all finished. You can see we got a nice shape to them. That kind of octagon shape, and you can see the really nice radiating pattern coming out of there. It gives really nice grip, and I think it just looks really great. That's what you get from the ball mill. I forget the percentage of step over, but it gets nice and smooth near the top, and then the pattern gets more aggressive near the bottom. Next step, throw the 3/16 end mill back in and do a profile pass around. Now I'm going to be running the profiling pass, which is a fairly simple program. 3/16 end mill, going at, I forget what it's like 2,500 RPMs, because that's as fast as my mill goes, about 10 inches per minute, and does a nice job. I'll get the vacuum here. It does go down into the aluminum a very tiny bit, but you know, after the first couple times you do it, there's really no more material there for it to take off. You can see that's like a pretty hefty depth of cut right there. But it still leaves a really nice finish, and yeah. So then we do that again, and then undo the screws, pop them off, and you get a nice pair of Micarta handle scales for my F1 chef's knife. As I've said previously, I'm going to have some of these available. There'll be 2 white, 2 red, 2 blue, and I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, and 2 brown. So these are what the black looks like. They get put on the knife, and then the edges get sanded flush and finished, and then I bead blast them, and they turn out really, really nice. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.